Okay, so I'm definitely going to need more filler content this week. What to do? What to do? Oh, I know! I'll roll on the content of Wonder creation table. 58? Let's see, what's that? A dinosaur with a gun horn! That's awesome! Let's talk about the Rod of Wonder and other similarly chaotic character options in Pathfinder and Starfinder on today's episode of The Local Disaster Tour Guide. Hello travelers and tourists, my name is Mark and I am the local disaster tour guide. That's right, I am a storyteller who is more than willing to drop a Rod of Wonder into every single campaign that I run. Sorry, not sorry. Welcome to a journey through the fantastic world of TTRPGs like Pathfinder and Starfinder. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a filler episode, but I want to talk about one of my favorite things in any RPG, and that is basically chaos magic. Fans of the channel may know that recently my son had to have surgery, and then I didn't realize that June is also the end of the calendar year for my IRL job, and I may have a lot of filler episodes in the near future, but don't worry, I am researching the more serious topics. I have been following the news from Paizo and I'm working my way through the videos from that event, and I'm paying attention to a lot of the other stuff that is coming out for Pathfinder and Starfinder. So don't worry, these serious videos are coming, but you may get some silly videos like this one mixed in as well. One of my all-time favorite magic items in any role-playing game is the classic Rod of Wonder. It's a simple magical item. It's a rod that you take and you point at an opponent, press a button, and then roll on a D100 table to determine which of a number of wild and crazy chaotic effects is going to take place. Over many years of gaming, I have had a lot of fantastic stories involving a Rod of Wonder. I remember years ago being in a D&D 3.5 campaign where my monk character was in a friendly rivalry with the party rogue, and the player of the party rogue actually found a Rod of Wonder, and it seemed like every time that rogue used that Rod of Wonder, for one reason or another, it messed up my character. I remember in Pathfinder 1st Edition running a one-shot mythic adventure where my players had to defend the Starstone Tower from some unique monsters called God Eaters, and one of the characters that I allowed my players to use was an Archmage with a custom mythic Rod of Wonder that they used to channel their powers. And yes, they used it a lot. And one of the most famous stories from my gaming table involves a player who repeatedly fired a Rod of Wonder into a field of wild magic. Yes, they did this more than once. And every year around Christmas time, I run a holiday game where I award my players a special homebrew item known as Alchemical Fruitcake that distributes completely randomized buffs when you take a bite. I love the Rod of Wonder, and I love the kind of chaotic, goofy magic that comes from, well, the Rod of Wonder and other similar items. So today, what I want to do is I just want to rank the different Rod of Wonder style items and character options that Paizo has given us in Starfinder and Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and talk about why I really enjoy those particular character options. But before I dive into that, let me just say, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like it, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And definitely jump into the comments section and leave your favorite stories involving a Rod of Wonder or other wild magic type effect from your gaming table, because I want to hear about all these crazy chaotic stories. Alright, let's get started. Now, before I get into the ranking aspect of this video, I do want to talk about the OG item, the Rod of Wonder itself. I'm not going to be ranking the Rod of Wonder in this video because it is the inspiration for every other item on this list, and its status as a classic and an inspiration really would make it not a fair conversation as to where it would need to rank. But we'll go ahead and discuss the Rod of Wonder because this is definitely an item that I think is fun to drop into your campaigns. In Pathfinder 2nd Edition, the Rod of Wonder is a rare level 8 item that is found on page 575 of the core rulebook. It comes with the chaotic, evocation, and magical traits, and it is fairly simple to use. It requires a 2-action activity with the interact trait to point this rod at a particular creature, press the button, and, well, who knows? Once you press that button, you roll a D100, and a wide variety of random effects have the potential to fire off and affect maybe the target, maybe yourself, maybe the battlefield, maybe nothing at all, but not knowing is part of the fun. You might get offensive spells like Fireball or Lightning Bolt, or you could get more utilitarian spells like Fairy Fire or Gust of Wind. One of my favorite options from a 10 to a 13 on your D100 is to unleash a massive swarm of 600 butterflies that blind everyone in the area as these butterflies just swarm around them and cover their face. Yes, this has come up in my games, and it is hilarious when it does. And while it's worth noting that many of the options on the Rod of Wonder table are often just spells that already exist inside the game, many of the potential outcomes can modify the spells, such as a 62 on the D100, which gives you the effect of a sleep spell, but in a 100-foot burst. Put everyone in the area to sleep. Rod of Wonder is a classic for a reason, but let's take a look at some of the options that the Rod of Wonder has inspired and rank them according to the most important of all possible measures, how much they entertain me. Coming in at number 4 on today's list, from the game Starfinder, is the Wonder Warp spell. This is a level 4 spell that is available to mystics, technomancers, and witch warpers, and it can be found on page 115 in the Galaxy Exploration Manual. And one of the unique things about this take on the Wonder effect is when you cast the Wonder Warp spell, it affects an area around you, the caster. Essentially, you have a 60-foot radius sphere centered on yourself, and the Wonder Warp spell has the potential to affect any and all creatures that are around you. By the way, this spell has a duration of 1 round per level, and every single round, you roll to see which random effect is going to be pertinent in that given round of the spell. Additionally, when you cast the spell, and every round that Wonder Warp is active, you make a will save, and if you succeed against your own will save, you get to determine which creatures in the area are affected by the Wonder Warp spell that round. If you fail, it just affects everyone. I think this is a fun and beautifully chaotic take on the Wonder effect that you find in RPGs, and this spell definitely needed to be on the Witch Warper list. Like, I don't know how this was not included with the original publication of the Witch Warper. Paizo was smart to come in and fix that oversight. But I just absolutely love this chaotic wave of energy that flies out from your character and can do all kinds of things. Blasting creatures with different types of damage, performing different combat maneuvers, creating zero gravity, maybe giving creatures fly speed, maybe allowing you to read the surface thoughts of particular creatures, or all of them. Talk about chaos. This really is a very entertaining option, and something I am very glad that Paizo includes. Now, there are a few reasons why the Wonder Warp spell doesn't rank higher on my list, and one of them is the fact that it requires a spell slot, and that it's a 4th level spell slot. Just the fact that you have to expend a spell slot in order to get this effect, and that really limits it to just 3 classes inside of the game. I really enjoy the spell, but it limits its utility and accessibility to player characters, so ultimately the Wonder Warp spell does come in a little bit low on my list. At number 3 for my list, I want to talk about the Wellspring Mage archetype, which can be found on page 248 of Secrets of Magic. This is one of the special casting archetypes that was included in Secrets of Magic that allows you to play with how magic functions inside of Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Functionally, this is Paizo's take on wild magic in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and it's definitely a fun archetype. The Wellspring Mage archetype can be used with any spontaneous caster, so sorcerers, oracle, bards, classes like that, they have the ability to make use of this archetype starting at first level. Now, the Wellspring Mage will start with fewer spell slots and cantrips, but they have a unique ability when combat with a significant enemy starts to check to see if magic begins to well up inside of them. They make a flat check against a DC of 6, and depending upon the outcome of that check, they might get an extra spell slot that is available just during the course of that fight. On top of that, they can also trigger Wellspring Surges, which are random magical effects that are determined by rolling a d20. There might be blasts of energy, you might have different creatures that could get summoned into combat, and those creatures are not necessarily going to be helpful to you, along with a variety of other interesting and entertaining effects. Now, there are a few things I like about the Wellspring Mage archetype. One of them is the fact that this can be used with any spontaneous caster. And there's even an optional rule for Game Masters to kind of force Wellspring Magic onto multi-class spontaneous casters to represent the fact that when you first start to develop powers through spontaneous casting classes, that you may not have the kind of fine-tuned control over those powers that you want to have. That can certainly lead to some fun story beats. There are also a variety of archetype feats that you can use to kind of expand upon your Wellspring magic, but probably my favorite thing about the Wellspring Mage archetype is the level 12 archetype feat, Interfering Surge, which gives you a unique reaction where you can use a Wellspring Surge to try to counteract a spell that you see another caster using. Basically, it is a counterspell, but if the counterspell works, the mage that you just counterspelled produces a Wellspring Surge instead of whatever it was they were trying to do. Does this make counterspelling useful and practical in Pathfinder 2e? Probably not, but am I going to try it at some point? Oh, you know I'm going to. In terms of downsides for the Wellspring Mage archetype, really my main complaint here, and what keeps this from going higher up on the list, is the fact that the Wellspring Surge table only has 20 options. Rod of Wonder has always been a D100, and the crazy variety of options is my favorite thing about Wonder-style effects, and to see the Wellspring Mage condensed down to just 20, yes, there's still a ton of stuff, yes, you're still going to have fun, but it just hurts my soul that they didn't do a full Rod of Wonder style table, so that kind of knocks it a little bit and leaves it at number 3 on this list. Now, the top 2 options on my list today both have something very important in common, and that is that both of these options are going to be items that are available inside of the game. Don't get me wrong, the Wonder Warp spell is fun, and don't get me wrong, I enjoy the Wellspring Mage archetype, but in both of those cases, those are specific options that are available to certain classes. And if you are not in that class or multi-classing into that class in some fashion, essentially you don't have access to those options, and I want all of my players to enjoy the chaos of the chaos magic. Much like the classic Rod of Wonder itself, the ideal implementation of chaos magic, in my mind, comes in the form of items that you can give to your players that allow them to enjoy the danger of pressing the big red button. That, of course, brings us to number 2 on my list, which is the Pistol of Wonder from Pathfinder 2nd Edition. This is a rare weapon that is available in Guns and Gears on page 167. It comes in at item level 13 and has the traits that you would associate with the Rod of Wonder: Evocation, Chaotic, and Magical. This weapon normally operates as a +2 greater striking flintlock pistol, which means it is a viable weapon in normal circumstances, but it also has the Rod of Wonder style effect where you can target a creature within 60 feet, interact with the object, and, well, who knows what's going to happen. Maybe the pistol gives you a heroism effect, or you could get the comic book classic, the little pole slides out of the end of your gun, and a bang flag falls down for everyone to laugh at, and you have to pull that flag out before you can use the gun again. Or, as I mentioned in the introduction to this video, hands down, my favorite option on any of these lists has to be the pistol casts the spell Dinosaur Form on you. It turns you into a Triceratops, but the gun melds into the horn of the Triceratops, giving you a Triceratops with a gun horn. This is the kind of chaotic, crazy shenanigans that I live for in TTRPGs, and the Pistol of Wonder is just absolutely amazing. I love this. The only thing that really keeps the Pistol of Wonder from taking the top spot in my Chaos Options ranking is that pistols are, well, an uncommon option inside of Pathfinder 2e, so your Game Master may not even allow firearms to begin with, and then there are proficiency issues that are really going to limit what classes can access the Pistol of Wonder. So while this is a fantastic option, there is one thing that I think is a little bit better in the context of its game. But that brings us to the number 1 Chaos option on my list today, and we're going back to Starfinder, where we're going to talk about the Grenade of Wonder. You can find this absolutely beautiful option on page 122 of the Starfinder Armory, and this is exactly what you think it is: a grenade that you chuck, and then you roll a d100 to see what on earth happens when the grenade explodes. The explosion itself is going to fill a 10-foot burst area, and you get a variety of different options. For example, the Grenade of Wonder could turn into a random grenade of another type and then behave accordingly. Or maybe you get that classic zero gravity effect. Maybe you randomly cause electronic doors and airlocks to just fling open without warning. Or maybe 1,000 adorable fluffy animals appear packed into this tiny space, creating difficult terrain as your enemies try to pick their way through the giant pile of kittens you just threw at them. This stuff is amazing. Now, like the Pistol of Wonder in Pathfinder 2e, there is a proficiency requirement to use the Grenade of Wonder, in that you have to be proficient with grenades. But grenade proficiency is a little more common, and it only takes a single feat for any character to pick up the grenade proficiency, which means that the Grenade of Wonder is a much more viable option for a much wider range of characters inside of the game Starfinder. That large available play space for the Grenade of Wonder could easily give this option the number 1 spot on my list today, but there is one thing I want to point out that is truly beautiful. You see, in classic Rod of Wonder style, there must be some risk to the original weapon user. Well, when you throw the Grenade of Wonder, on your attack roll, if you roll a 1, 3, or a 5, you are teleported to a random space inside of the blast radius of that grenade, and then you are affected by the grenade along with every other person inside of the blast radius. This is a beautiful take on that user risk aspect of the Wonder style items that you see. and I absolutely love it. So, Grenade of Wonder takes my #1 spot on the Chaos Options list today, and I think it is very deserving. Paizo, you knocked it out of the park with this one. But that is my ranking of the currently available chaotic options for players in both Pathfinder 2e and Starfinder. If you are interested in reading up about the Rod of Wonder or any of the 4 items in today's list, I'm going to be linking to the Archives of Nethys page for each of these items in the video description. But the time has come for me to turn the conversation over to you. What do you think about Rod of Wonder style items in RPGs? And do you have any really fun stories from your gaming table? Let me know what kind of wild, crazy, and chaotic effects you've seen by jumping into the conversation in the comments below. Also, don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, like, share, subscribe to the channel. You can join my free Discord group by checking out the link in the video description, and you can support this channel financially by checking out my Patreon page, which is in the video description as well. Thank you so much for being here, thank you so much for being part of the conversation, and have a wonderful day. Alright, one more roll. I wonder what's going to happen this time.